Tonight I want to talk about honesty. I did talk about that about a year ago, and it's just a really important topic.
Did you forget?
Yeah, some people have recommended that I do another one on honesty. So anyway, no, but tonight I thought, it is a good thing just to touch on at least once a year, if not more, because it's probably not very often that we just outright tell lies, but there's lots of ways that we can be dishonest in other ways. And so I wanted to go over those kind of things tonight and just talk about being more honest people. Do you have a question, Ashley?
Yeah, I do.
Is it just vitally important and it can't wait until?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very. Why on the front cover does it say elephant butt lady?
That's what I was wondering about too. Let me start with the green part. Let me start with the green part on the sign here. Has anyone ever heard of a city in New Mexico? It's a real place. It's called Truth or Consequences. Have you guys ever heard of that one?
No.
Oh, okay. Have you heard of it?
I think so.
Yeah, and then I guess there's a lake nearby called Elephant Butte. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Butte. Okay. I know I sound dumb, but I did not know how to pronounce that word. I was hoping it was Butte, but we can call it the city of Elephant Butte if we want to.
Yes.
But so there actually is a city called Truth or Consequences. It's just a very unique name. And it was named after a radio show. The city used to be called Hot Springs, and there was this popular radio show called Truth or Consequences. And this was back like in the 40s or 50s. And they changed the name of the city to Truth or Consequences because of this show. That's how popular it was. The show was kind of like Truth or Dare. They would ask someone a question. They'd say, you either have to answer this question that you don't want to answer, or you have to do the consequences. You have to do some kind of like challenge or dare, type of thing. So anyway, it's kind of like a Truth or Dare, but it was on the radio. Truth or Consequences. And that was just a great title for what I want to talk about tonight, because when we don't tell the truth, sometimes we have to deal with consequences. You have a choice, truth or consequences. So I thought that would be a good title for the thing tonight. And me and Emily have a thing whenever we think that someone, or if we think someone's being dishonest, what do we say, Emily?
Whoppers.
Whoppers. Have you guys ever heard us say that one before?
Yes.
We just say like, oh, Whoppers. It's a little bit nicer than saying, you liar, something like that.
I was going to say, she says it about you too.
I know, I hear it quite a bit. But anyway, she has Whoppers, and then if it's just a really stupid lie, it's like, why did you think I would even possibly believe that? We call it a flopper, because it's like the next level of a Whopper. Okay, when I talked about lying last year, I told this story about the time that when I was in 4th grade, I had to wear glasses, and actually starting in 3rd grade. And by the time I was in 5th grade, I was so sick of glasses. So one day, I was like, who's heard this story? Probably most of you guys. Okay. So I was walking into school, when I went to public school, and I thought, man, I guess my glasses might have accidentally fallen off and hit the ground. And I'm like, it would be so easy just to say that my glasses fell, because they did actually fall. I thought, well, I could just say they fell and broke. But then just to be on the safe side, to make sure they really were broken, I just put my foot out and just, really ground them into the cement. Just to be on the safe side, in case my mom's like, oh, they're fine, you can still wear them. Well, not after that. So that was when I think back at the biggest lie I told when I was a little kid, it was probably that, because glasses are expensive, and I just ruined them. And my parents have came to church a few times since then, and you guys haven't ratted me out. So I feel pretty confident. Of course, I guess I've been ratted out for other things this week.
I ratted you out.
But, I feel pretty confident that you guys aren't going to turn on me and tell them that, because my mom still doesn't know about that.
You should tell her.
I think about it sometimes.
You should not think about it. You should do it.
Maybe to live up to my sermon, put your phone away. You're thinking something. I'm just kidding. I thought he was about to call my mom. Okay, but anyway.
You scared me idea.
But anyway, yeah, maybe I should tell her, actually. Okay, maybe I'll call her this week. I'll let you guys know next week how it goes. Okay. How long? Oh, this was 15 years ago, I guess. I don't know. How old am I? I was 10, so it was a long time ago. Yes?
Before we get to the scripture, can I read it?
Sure. I will introduce you and let you read it at that time. Yeah. Okay, let's table that for right now, though. Let's table that until next year's lying sermon. I'm just going to get the scariest verse. I want to get the scariest verse about lying out of the way right off the bat. So that's what we're going to go to first. I got it on the screen. Revelation chapter 20 says, those who are victorious will inherit all of this. This is all good stuff. And I will be their God and they will be my children. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they'll be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. So God right there is talking about, this is where all these people go. He's talking about them going to hell at the end of the world because these are their practices. Okay, now some of these make a lot of sense. Okay, like murderers. Murderers, that's kind of an obvious one, right? It's like, yeah, that's a really terrible thing, murdering people. Then you look at unbelieving, and people who don't even believe in God, people who do witchcraft. It's kind of like, yeah, these are all the terrible things. Then you get down here to liars, and it's like, whoa, wait a second. Lying's not as bad as all those other things, right? Like, why are liars put in the same category as all those other things? And that gives us an idea of how seriously God takes lying, how much God doesn't like it. That it's put in a category with all these other terrible things. But when it says cowardly right here, it's not talking about people who are like afraid of heights. That means like people who won't stand up for God, that they just back away and they're afraid. That's the kind of cowards he's talking about right there, if you were wondering. But anyway, God categorizes all these people. He puts them all together. And that really gets to me because from our perspective, we just wouldn't put lying in that category. And here's why God doesn't want us to lie. This is why it's a bad thing. Lies ruin relationships, right? I mean, you can tell, if you tell 10 lies, you get caught once. I mean, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to believe you anymore. Think about this. Say you tell the truth 100 times and tell one lie, but you get caught on that one lie. Well, all those times that you told the truth, it just casts it into doubt. It's like, how can people trust you if they've caught you in a lie? It doesn't matter how much you've told the truth before, they don't want to trust you. No hands right now.
I can tell you something. I have a story.
No, I can't do a story.
Please.
Let me see what time.
Please.
At the end, if we have time.
Okay. I won't wear them.
So anyway, people won't trust you anymore. And I found out that the Vikings, these people who go in and like destroy cities and rob all the people and stuff, they had a code and they said, but we won't tell lies. They won't lie to each other. They're like, because that's just going too far. We don't care about going in and killing all these people, taking all their money, kidnapping their children or wives or whatever. But we don't lie. That was their code. So, and basically any society has always frowned on lying. There's no society that's ever existed in all of history that was like, yeah, lying's not a big deal, you know. And our society is full of lies, but it'll talk about being obsessed with the truth. People like, oh, we got to get to the bottom of this, you know, and expose and blah, blah, blah. Transparency. Truth is a powerful word, right? Truth is a powerful word. And I saw on Facebook today, someone had put up these banners. I guess there's this comedian in Chicago who does not like advertising. He like hates advertising. So he bought all the advertising space and just put jokes up and stuff like that. So that's what this is. Hit the right arrow, Corey. The right one. There we go. He put up these things and he called it squirrel truth. Statistically speaking, at least one person on this train is actually 7 squirrels wearing a human suit. Don't be a victim. Squirrel truth. Hit it again, Corey. Squirrels have never, ever wished you a happy birthday. Like, not even once. Probably because squirrels are inconsiderate, selfish monsters. Squirreltruth.com. And there's one more. Squirrels live in trees. Bees live in trees. Are squirrels actually killer bees in disguise? Squirreltruth.com. So if you guys want to go to squirreltruth.com and find out all this stuff, I may think you made some valid points. I've never been told happy birthday. Here's what God thinks of lying. Here's what God thinks of lying and what God thinks of truth. And if you go just to the 9th commandment, in the 10 commandments, one of them is, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. And that's kind of like, if God's going to make 10 commandments, of course that's going to be in there. You know, don't lie. There's another good one, Proverbs 16. It's right here. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Here's what they are. Haughty eyes. That means like proud eyes, people who just look down on others. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Now, this is a list of 7 things that God says he hates, 7 things, and lying is in there twice. So in a list of 7 things God hates, he puts in one of them 2 times. Isn't that kind of interesting? A lying tongue and a false witness who pours out lies. So it's almost like that's just a major one that God wants to hit on a lot of the time. And I got one more verse from Ephesians. Each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we're all members of one body. What they were saying in Ephesians is that we're one body. We're the body of Christ. Okay, if you're a Christian, we're all supposed to be like family. And if we're lying to each other, you can't trust your family then. You know, who wants to come to church and sit by someone that they just can't trust, right? I mean, that's. Do you guys need to step outside? No, you don't want to come to church and have that on your mind. That's why it's so important. And he says, put off the falsehood. And if you go on in the verse, he's saying, that's the way we used to live, but we're Christians, we live a new way now. And we don't do that kind of stuff to each other. And like that verse, I think of that verse all the time that Jesus prayed. He wants us to be one. It means he wants us to be united. And we can't be united if we can't trust each other. And you know what? Whenever we lie, even if people don't catch you in a lie and you totally get away with it, guess what? God still saw it. You don't really get away with anything. Because even if you lie and no one catches you, God saw the lie. God heard the lie. And we have to meet God someday. So, is there something?
What God thinks of lying.
Oh, okay. It's a typo. Come on. Thank you, Hunter.
You're welcome.
You probably won't remember anything else.
This is the only thing. All right.
Except for the squirrel trees.
So I want to talk next. Different ways that we use deception. You can go on to the next one, Corey. Different ways that we use deception. Because like I said, a lot of times we don't just outright tell a lie straight to someone's face. But there are other ways that we're deceptive and try to hide the truth. And so I want to look at some of those. And I hate to say it. I really hate to say this because I don't like this one. There's not, we talk about white lies, polite lies, and just, what white lie means. Well, I'm just saying it to be nice, I really hate to say this, but the Bible doesn't say, well, it's okay to be nice, or it's okay to lie if you're telling someone a compliment, like a white lie. It doesn't color code the lies. That's what I'm trying to say.
Actually,
The Bible actually doesn't give us that permission to do that. I really wish it did, because that would be easy to deal with. And I'm kind of at a point where when someone asks me something, I just tell them if I don't like to, even if it's going to hurt their feelings, if they ask me, I just tell the truth. And if they don't want to hear it, they shouldn't have asked. If you don't really want the truth, don't ask what I think of your shoes or whatever. Which people don't really ask me that very often, but
There's a reason I quit asking about stuff.
yeah, there you go. It's just smarter not to ask. Anyway, if you like your shoes, wear your shoes. And maybe people will learn that if you tell them the truth long enough. Okay, here's another one. If you're a different person in different places. Integrity means that you're the same person everywhere you go. And so if you act a different way with your parents than you do at school and then you do at church, that's not having integrity. It means you're being a different person. So wherever we go, we should just be the same person, all right? And not try to just be super Christian at church, and then not live that way the rest of the week. That's not having integrity. So that's a very important one. Let me go here to... Oh, okay, breaking promises. I think I got that up here. Yeah. Jesus said, let your yes be yes, let your no be no, and just stick to your word. And, whenever we make a promise, maybe at that moment that we're making the promise, we weren't trying to lie. We really intended to do whatever we were promising to do. Then if you decide later not to do it, or something comes up and you can't keep your promise, you actually become a liar then, because you aren't doing what you said before. Even if you intended to do it back then, if you break your word, then you become a liar. And the best way to avoid breaking promises is to avoid making promises. I just thought of that. It rhymed. Maybe you'll remember that, though. To avoid breaking promises, avoid making promises. Because, a promise is a big deal to God. And he says it's better off just do what you're going to say. And don't feel like you would say, oh, I promise this, and tag that onto at the end. Just do what you're going to say. That's what God wants us to do. Leaving out relevant details in a story. If you're telling a story and you want to make someone sound worse or something like that, and you leave out certain details to make them sound extra bad, that's, even though you haven't told an outright lie, maybe everything you're saying is true, but you haven't told the whole truth. Not now.
Please,
You got a story?
no, it's just a question.
Okay.
Okay, so on Sunday I went to dinner with Hunter's family.
I don't know enough to say right now, but I don't know. Just go by your conscience on that. I don't know enough details, but anyway, yeah. If you are in a place that's like your parents wouldn't want you to go there because it's a bad thing, then definitely just because you don't tell them that you went there and they didn't ask, that would be kind of dishonest because you're trying to deceive them. They wouldn't think that you're at this place that you're not supposed to be, so you shouldn't go. But I know, I understand. But I know that Charlene wasn't going somewhere bad. She was just going out with their family. But if your parents tell you not to hang out with certain friends, just because they aren't asking every day, if you hang out with those friends, you should just do what they said. That's being disobedient. So that's kind of a good question. Finally, the last one here is exaggerating. And maybe you're like, why would you put exaggerate? Because exaggerating is not even lying. And by the way, I'm not saying you sin whenever you exaggerate. Because it's okay to exaggerate. It's not like a bad thing. But if you exaggerate constantly, everything you say is just an exaggeration, it will actually have the same effect that lying does. Because when I meet someone who just exaggerates all the time or constantly, I stop trusting what they say because it's just always something so extreme. You know what I mean? So even though it's not a sin like lying is, it has the same effect that lying does. So that's why I'd say don't be someone who exaggerates constantly, all the time, whatever. Because whenever you do that, it is still causing people not to trust you. That's just some free advice right there. Okay, and I've seen people exaggerate like their testimony, talk about how bad they were before and God's changed them, but they really exaggerate how bad they were before to make it sound worse. That's lying right there. You should just tell the truth. One time I saw this evangelist, and he put on Facebook how many people came down to his altar call. And I had been to his things 2 nights in a row, and then I'd go home and I'd get on Facebook and I'd see 100 people came to the altar. And I'm like, there were not 100 people at that altar. And he just did that 2 or 3 times in a row. So I defriended him on Facebook. I'm like, this guy's not even being honest. He's trying to make it sound like all these people came down and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you're doubling the numbers. And I've seen pastors who exaggerate how many people come to their church. They're like, I heard one saying that 60 people come to his church every week. And then a month later, his church closed. And because there weren't enough people coming. I'm like, 60 people wasn't enough people to keep your church open? So I know he wasn't probably being honest about the 60 people coming every week. People exaggerate, and it can be straight up lying a lot of times. But anyway, I'm not saying exaggerating is a sin, that it's evil or something like that. I'm just saying if you do it constantly, people won't trust you as much because everything you say is so extreme, they don't know what's real. So just be careful about that. As I close, I want to just talk about the 2 roots of lying. There's 2 roots of lying. Go on to the next one. There's a spiritual root and then also a psychological root. And Hannah would like to read the verses on the back of the bullet. Emma, because they're verses from the book of John, and her school put on a theater production of the book of John this past week. Yeah, I went to it. I enjoyed it. So go ahead and read it for us because this is more fresh on her mind.
Jesus said to them, "If God were your father, you would love me, for I have come here from God. I have not come on my own. God sent me. Why is my language not clear to you? Because you are unable to hear what I say. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Yet because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me? Can any of you prove me guilty? If I am telling you the truth, why don't you believe me? Whoever belongs to God hears what God says. The reason you do not hear is because you do not belong to God."
Yeah, Jesus is getting on these people. Notice how many times he said truth and lie in those verses. He's getting on these people because he says, you can't even understand the truth because you just want to follow your sinful lives. You don't even want to hear the truth. That's what Jesus was telling him. And Satan is the chief liar. I like this story about we were over at Kim, Emily's parents' house, and some of Emily's cousins were there. And you guys might know Jordan and Haley. And Haley told a lie, I think, and she got caught. And so Kim says, now, you don't want to tell lies because who's the biggest liar of all time? And Haley thinks, and she goes, my brother. But Kim had taught her that it was Satan. Satan's the father of lies. I mean, he's the one who wants to deceive you. He'll deceive you two ways. If you are not a Christian, if you're not living right, the devil will try to tell you that, hey, don't worry about it. Everything's good. You don't need all that stuff. Just do whatever you want. You're good. That's what Satan will try to tell you. And the other lie he'll tell is if you're a Christian, he'll always try to make you feel bad about yourself. If you're saved, if you're living right, Satan will always be trying to hound you and try to just make you miserable. So he'll lie to you either way. Colossians says, don't lie to each other since you've taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. The new self, who we are as Christians. Oh, you can click the no on that. I don't know what that is. The new self that we are as Christians, we're supposed to be people of truth. God said, God is truth. Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. He said the Holy Spirit is the spirit of truth. So if we're going to be like God, we need to be people of truth. And finally, if you just go on to the last slide there. There you go. Oh, almost. Well, whenever you get there, there we go. It's called the psychological root. That's what I'm calling it. This is what's going on in your mind whenever you lie. That's what I want to close with here tonight.
What about the fish?
I don't know what the fish were about. This was just on the... There was an iceberg in the thing. And I thought, well, I guess if you get caught in one lie, people could think that's just the tip of the iceberg, and they'll just brand you a liar no matter what. So I had an iceberg thing. I don't know. Anyway, don't worry about the fish. Okay, whenever we lie, that is actually a problem with idolatry. Because whenever we tell a lie, at that moment, there is something more important to us than God. Whenever we tell a lie, we're saying, oh, the most important thing right now is what this person thinks of me, or what this person's opinion is. That's more important to me than what God thinks. And that's an idol. It's making an idol out of human opinion. So, I misspelled thinks again down here. But care about what God thinks more than what anyone else thinks, and that'll keep you honest. Because you know that God doesn't want you lying. Jesus said, I am. God said, I am that I am. He's saying, I don't need to lie about who I am. I don't need to deceive anyone. I just am who I am. And we just need to be people who let our yes be yes, our no be no, and not get our identity from what people think of us, but get our identity from God. Try to be people of truth because that's who God is. And I'll go ahead and pray and let us be dismissed, but just try to remember to be people of truth. After I pray. But be people of truth because it's our lies that put Jesus on the cross. He was on the cross to die for our sins, and our lies are a part of that. We don't want to add to that. So be people of truth. Do it because we just love Jesus.